Hello, my name is Julian, and in this video we will be covering how to write a test from scratch. It helps by starting with writing out the use case first. So here's a sample use case that we're going to try to automate. I've already had it pre-written up, but essentially you want to write as granular of a step as possible because it really does help with automating it down the road. So, taking a look at the test suite structure, I'm just going to navigate to, so this is the test, UI test, tests, suites. We can see that there is no tests that specifically cover the invite page. So I'm just going to create a new directory for that. And then inside of the invite directory, I'm going to create a new JavaScript file that I guess best summarizes what the test is going to do. So if we take a look at the script again, invite form error handling. So I'll call this invite empty form throws error. And I'm just going to use Visual Studio to do my editing. Alright, so we start off with just filling out the very bare bones skeleton of the test. So every test needs to have a start and a run, like so. So it's Casper start. And run. So as much as possible, as you're going to be writing Casper tests, you're going to have a lot of closures, and it's really helpful when you name your closures because the stack trace will be able to pinpoint or more or less where errors might occur. This is really helpful when debugging something wrong with the test. So this is just the basic structure, basic skeleton of a test. And then I'm actually going to copy over the script that we're going to automate and just comment it out. Now we can pretty much fill in all the steps that we're going to be doing using the Casper's then structure. So we can do Casper then function sign in as user for, then navigate to invite page, just fix up my camel casing, submit empty invite form. Finally, we're going to assert errors. So that pretty much is what we're going to accomplish in this test. It's basically a one-to-one mapping of our use case that we had written up in the notepad. So I have no need of the notepad, so I'm just going to close that up. So once our skeleton is built, we can start to fill in the quote-unquote meat of the test. So I am going to need to sign in. And I know user 4 is going to be this particular user, so it's going to be the under network 1 guest 0, or sorry, guest 2. Choose networks 1 guest 2. Then navigating to the invite page is basically going to be an open. Along with the invite relative URL. So I'm just going to run that for now and see where I get. Run dash. So this will be load network data from disk and test suites invite this guy. So from the output logs, we can see that we are successfully logging in as a user. And right around here, we're actually going to the invite page. So great. I think the test script where it is at right now seems to be correct. And I can continue writing more of the test. So in this case, submit an empty invite form. So I need to know what that CSS selector is going to be for the invite button. So I'll just take a look at this. Using Chrome's inspector makes it pretty simple. I'm going to select this guy. So this should be the thing, the element, excuse me. I'm just going to do a quick check using jQuery to make sure that this element is indeed unique, because if it isn't, I believe Casper is going to select the first element that matches that CSS selector. And in some cases, well actually in every case, you really don't want to rely on that variance. You want to make sure that your CSS selectors are unique. So great, there's only one element. I'll go back to Visual Studio. So this will be Casper.click, click API. So that's going to submit. And then from here, I can start to do my assertions. So test, what are some things that we might want to check? So we should probably check that this parent div actually exists. So I'll just put this side by side. Yeah, so we probably want to check that this error messages div exists as a container for the messages. So I'll do that. Test.assert exists, I believe, is correct. So I can do this by CSS selector. The next thing that and with your error, or sorry, with all the assertions that you perform, it's also really helpful to also add a message so that you know where in the test you're actually at. And I'll explain that in 1 second. So verify that the error div exists. So actually I'm going to run this right now just to make sure that this is all working properly. So now getting back to why we should put messaging inside of the assertions is specifically when you need to debug something. So for instance, here we have this then function, which is the assert errors. if you were to have additional steps after this, and let's say for example one of those steps fail, well, you'll know where something is actually passed and inside of your script. So it makes it a little bit easier to debug down the road. So let's add a few more assertions. Let's go back. Why don't we verify that this message actually appears? So this would be Casper test cert equals. So cert eval equals is pretty much a shortcut that allows us to evaluate something, and then evaluate as in check something on the DOM, and then match it against a specified value. So in this case, we're going to get the email error message, email cannot be blank message, and that is a function, and it should match with email can't be blank. So add an escape key and a message to go along with this assertion. So verify that the email cannot be blank message appears. So let's fill in this closure. What we're going to do is return, see what the CSS selector is going to work out to be. So this might be a little bit more challenging. I think what I'm going to do is do it by error messages, then the UL, followed by the LI and child 1. I think should do it. Email can't be blank. Perfect. So we'll just copy all that, because I know this works, and return that. So once again, let's run this. Make sure this works. Great. So we know that these two tests pass. I'm just going to make it fail, just to make sure that what we're doing is actually kosher. So I'm just going to let that run in the background while I work on the next assertion. And I think in this case, I want to verify that the email input field actually has that red border around it. And we denote that by this span class being added around the input element. So I think what I'll do for this is, let's do jQuery input equals, let's grab this. Closing this properly. Then I want to grab the parent, which I'm expecting it to be the span. Then I want to grab the attribute class. So let's try that. Perfect. So field with errors is the class of the span, which causes the red ring. So I'm just going to copy this. Assert eval equals, once again, so function, let's call this get input and we will return this. expecting this class. And finally, a message. So we should verify that the email input should have a red box around it. So I'm going to go back to the console and verify that indeed something has failed because it did not match the string properly. So I'm going to go back into the test script and correct this, and then run the test for one final time. Oh, spelling mistake. There's an extra S, so I need to clear that out. And let's just run this one more time just for kicks. Yeah, so there you go. 3 tests have been executed. And as you've seen with failures, at the end of the execution of a test, you'll have a summary of how many tests have failed. And in line with the logging is kind of where you're going to be able to denote where in the test case it's failed. So just to recap again, why it's important to add lots of messaging around your closures is because you would be able to get a stack trace back. Why you should add messaging around your assertions is because you can then trace kind of down the console stack of where your test is currently, or where it might, around where it's failing kind of thing. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.